Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Evening Cigars with James. You just missed the badass intro of me biting the cigar and fighting to get this thing lit and all this stuff. Which, by the way, everybody should carry matches in their car. Carry a little emergency pack and have matches in there. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Mm. Mm, mm, mm. Today, subject. Well, I want to give an announcement. I will be doing the last of this show. Not canceling it. I'm going to be setting up a schedule to film this in the sense. So basically, maybe do this like a bi-weekly thing or twice a week. Maybe every 2 weeks I do this show because I don't want to keep smoking cigars every week. But I like the idea of smoking, talking to you guys, and shooting the shit. But Morning Coffee to James will be scheduled. We'll get back on its regular scheduled programming. Hopefully I can get back on that shit. I just been flabbergasted. I've been so yeah, it's just ridiculous. So what do we want to talk about today? Well, I want to talk about and continuing on with the entertainment industry because that's what I studied in. And something that's been, I was watching Weaponized Nerd Rage's stream, and he was talking about the wokeness and the new Resident Evil programs and the Resident Evil movie and Netflix series. I'm not talking about Infinite Darkness. I'm talking about the new one they have with a black Wesker, which is a pretty funny thing because Oswald E. Spencer, for those who don't know the lore of Resident Evil, was the founder of Umbrella, and he was heavy in eugenics, and so were the Wesker children, who were created out of eugenics. Wesker himself is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, all super powerful being. Well, he has red eyes to indicate he has superpowers. But it's kind of funny they got a black man to play a allegory for a white supremacist or a Hitler's, Magnella's, dream, race. So I find it kind of amusing. But, and I mean this is the biggest but, it's also not where I'm going to really get into the discussion of the thing too, but I'm more worried about, and again, I don't mind race swapping if the character is come to life. Like, okay, and I get it too, like they're replacing every ginger out there with a black person, but that's not the case as well. Like, it's like, there's a border between pandering and perfect and like decent casting. Like Ernie Hudson as J. Jonah Jameson. When Spider-Man Homecoming came out, I was hoping, not Homecoming, what was it? Far From Home. I was hoping they got somebody else to play J. Jonah Jameson than say, J.K. Simmons. Because I like J.K. Simmons, but he's in that Spider-Man universe. The Tobey Maguire one. I would have loved to have seen Ernie Hudson do it, and before anybody says anything about, oh, you were against race swapping, I'm against race swapping when it's just pandering, when it's not like, oh, because there's a million other superheroes out there that deserve to get the spotlight, that includes black, so yeah. But casting Ernie Hudson, I have no disregards because the man can pull it off. He has the look, he has the swagger of J. Jonah Jameson. That's what I'm really looking at, the soul. Not really the skin color when I look at Ernie Hudson. When I look at Ernie Hudson, I'm looking at, yes, a black version of J. Jonah Jameson, but I'm mostly looking at him being J. Jonah Jameson. Like, I could see him being a J. Jonah Jameson for this new Spider-Man. Does he have the intensity as J.K. Simmons? J.K. Simmons is by far the best J. Jonah Jameson. No, but he's going to bring his own flavor to it, and that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm kind of, I appreciate. Like, Ernie Hudson would be an amazing J. Jonah Jameson, but they didn't. They ended up making that character into an Alex Jones allegory, which we'll get into in just a moment. But another thing I'm more worried about, too, is that Amazon is doing a Lord of the Rings TV series. I worry about this because they're going to try to be like Game of Thrones. And for those who are big Lord of the Rings fans, and you may think as a Game of Thrones fan, it's like, well, what's the matter? We get to see some tits on some elves. It's like, no. Lord of the Rings is about hope, friendship, happiness, good versus evil. Not politics, not scandal, not allegories for any bullshit. And by the way, Tolkien was against, allegory. And by the way, I think Lord of the Rings is 10 times better. Far superior to Game of Thrones in every way. Like, Game of Thrones is just a cheap knockoff. There's no wizards, there's no elves. It's like fantasy. It's fantasy for people who don't want to admit they like fantasy. Give me, and this is the thing too. Give me elves, give me dwarves, give me magic, give me goblins, give me creatures, give me swordplay, give me wizardry, give me all that. Did we get that when Game of Thrones? No, we got Emilia Clarke's naked ass, which is a fine naked ass. But the big thing I really do not like about this is that you're applying this to Lord of the Rings, and Lord of the Rings is much more classier, and they're putting their woke bullshit in there too as well, which I have to talk about this as well. And I was thinking about like what Weaponized Nerd said about this, and he said that the left has, and I said this too as well, like multiple times, the left has control of the arts. They have control of the media. They have control of the entertainment. I mean, take a look at video games. Take a look at movies. Take a look at television shows. Most of it's woke. They're shoving propaganda, not just propaganda, but they're shoving messaging, political messaging. They're shoving these ideas down your throat, and it's become obscene. People just want to sit back and relax and just watch a fucking movie. And then one of the things he said, though, the right needs to take, conservatives, not just the right, the conservatives need to take art seriously. Back in the day, John Wayne used to be a movie, a film, what's the word I'm looking for? Film crafter, film artist, a storysmith. He used to be involved with making movies. The dude was a stuntman before he became a big-time Hollywood celebrity, like, a movie star. Most of these guys were. I watched this documentary, and, he was a stuntman beforehand. Honestly, it's, he's involved with making this film. Like, the reason why he got so involved with making all those war movies, and yes, Green Beret, which I'll talk about in just a second, was he believed in, fighting for the troops that, across the sea. He actually enlisted, but they turned him away because he was too old. He was 35 at the time. But honestly, I would have recruited him. I would have been like, fine, you're in. But, conservatives used to be in Hollywood. Republicans used to be in Hollywood. They used to be a mixed bag of those two. But now, ever since then, they kind of gave up. Like, back then, like, at one point in time, they just gave up and like, we're not going to take care of this. We're going to work on politics and this. That doesn't fucking work. They need to come back to entertainment. Meaning that they need to go back into just making movies, just being movies. They don't need to shove messaging down their throats, but maybe messages of hope, peace, friendship, triumph, courage, strength, triumph, pushing yourself to the limit. Like, why do you think, like, people love the Schwarzenegger movies? Why do you think people love the Stallone movies? Not just in John Wayne, Clint Eastwood. Yes, you had, morally ambiguous, heroes, but, like, you also had, just stories that didn't just beat you over the head with allegories and messaging and political messaging, and all this stuff, and thinking of a different way. Most of the time, we're talking about political nonsense, like global warming and shit like that. They just wanted to tell good stories. Tell a good story first, and then get your message second. That's how you're supposed to do it. And people have forgotten that rule. If you want to make a good movie, like some of the greatest movies, it's mostly involving around the story first, rather than the message. The message comes last. Everything else that makes a good story comes first. And that's the point I'm trying to come here. It's that you have to make conservatives have to go back into the fight. That's where the real fight is. It's in arts and entertainment. You know, they need to take that shit seriously. I mean, you get Ben Shapiro like defending like the Snyder Cut, and I like that. I like the fact that Ben Shapiro's defending that. Hell, you know, despite what I like Zack Snyder, I really do like Zack Snyder, and God damn it, I want to check out that Snyder Cut of the Justice League. And by the way, restore the Snyder universe, the Snyderverse. And you know what? You may say, well, it's too dark. It's like Marvel's too light-hearted. Like, they're too comedy. Like, think about it. Think about, like, how many people hated Fat Thor, how pussified SpiderMan is, how much of a cuck fucking, you know, most of these characters have become. Hell, even Iron Man, the first fucking wave was Iron Man. He gave up being Iron Man and all his iron suits. It's like, dude, you're a superhero. You need that shit. It's just absolute lunacy when they come up with this shit. You know what I mean? It's like, look, I get it. You want to push progressiveness and stuff like that, and honestly, and then that's another thing too. I was listening to Midnight's Edge, and they were talking about The Boys. The truth be told, there's a scene in The Boys where they do this parody of Marvel's feminist Justice League and feminist Avengers, where it's, you know, girls get it done. They were making fun of that, and the literal like. And one of the guys on that podcast, which is one of my favorite channels, I haven't watched him in a while, Literary Devil, was like, oh no, it's feminist propaganda. I'm like, no. They were making fun of that. They were legit making fun of, like, you know, Marvel's, you know, female Avengers shit and all that nonsense. And I have nothing against female empowerment whatsoever. I have nothing against strong female characters. I'm not afraid of them. I embrace them. I enjoy them. You know, and I keep bringing up the ones that really matter, like Sarah Connor and Ripley, and let me think who else. I forget the woman's name from... The one chick from RoboCop. Damn it. You know, Tomb Raider is a great example. God dang it, any of the ex-women, minus Rogue and Kitty Pryde. You know, because Ellen Page doesn't exist anymore. It's Elliot. Yeah, that's what we want. And honestly, if anything else, I do want to see good movies being made again. And like, why do you think manga's beating out Marvel and DC, beating out American comics? Because they don't care about your political agenda. They only care about telling good stories. That's the thing we are missing. We are not telling good stories anymore. We're telling bad stories. We're putting political propaganda messaging out there. You know, name me a movie that was talking about, you know, the female patriarchy, or hating Trump, or climate change, or, you know, I'm not talking about anti-war stuff, because some of the anti-war stuff is kind of pro-war too, if you think about it. You know, people who push like anti-gun bullshit rhetoric and like use them in their fucking movies, you know? It's like, you know, it kind of bugs the shit out of me when they just, nobody respects, you know, cinema anymore. It's just a propaganda machine. And then you got China, which, again, not blaming the people, I'm blaming the government, the CCP. You know, they don't want that shit. They don't want, like, you know, culture appropriate. Everybody likes an American movie because it's America they're looking at, you know. It's ridiculous. We're goofy. We're outrageous. We're nonsensical. We're loud. We're over the top. But we love it. Alright. I think I've spoken long enough. But the point I'm getting at is that conservatives, let's get back into art. And people who are central, like everybody, let's just make a movie. Let's be like John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. Put our political differences aside and make some great art. Alright. See you tomorrow. Peace.